give you a little info on Carolina last year. They were 12th most rushing attempts and 10th most in yardage. So they were pretty good. And don't forget they had Christian McCaffrey to start the season. But even after he left, people like Deontay Foreman were effective for the Carolina Panthers. So they were very efficient with their rushing attempts. But they were fourth least in passing attempts and yardage. So the quarterback position was a huge need for them. So speaking of quarterback position, the rookie Bryce Young is set to start his first season in Carolina. He's going 153rd overall in drafts currently. He is QB 19 off the board. In college, in 2 seasons at Alabama, he had 79 touchdowns in 27 games. He had another 7 touchdowns on the ground. He had roughly had about a 3 passing touchdown per game average over the last 2 seasons in Alabama, which are his biggest 2 starting seasons. So this guy comes from a high pedigree. Where are you taking him? And let's not think about rookie, dynasty drafts. Let's not talk about keeper leagues. If you are sitting there, what scenario lets you grab him in your draft, and who are you grabbing him ahead of?
I don't know. I mean, it's a 12-team league, right? So
let's just assume 12-team league. Yes. 6-point touchdown.
I'm not. This is probably going to be like if I draft, I don't know, Jared Goff. If I draft Stafford, if I draft one of like the lower tier guys, and I want to just draft a guy just to have a second option later in the season when he kind of develops a little bit more. I mean, it's really hard for me to want to draft. I mean, we're going to go through like any one of these quarterbacks. Derek Carr is probably my highest ranked quarterback in this division. And it'd be really hard for me to draft Bryce Young. I mean, there's like, unless someone in front of us, in front of the entire league goes 2 of the top 12 quarterbacks, then I'm not going to be in a position where I need to draft him. He's going to be purely a backup, and I typically am not going to waste a draft pick on a backup, wait and see quarterback. I've been pretty vocal on saying that the quarterback that I want from this draft is going to be CJ Stroud. And then Anthony Richardson after that. I think Bryce Young is going to, and it's not like he's going to have a bad season. I just don't think fantasy production is going to be there. So he's more of a waiver wire pickup, like wait and see kind of guy. I'd probably draft him over Ritter. I'd probably draft him over either of the Tampa quarterbacks. Probably draft him over Mac Jones, just on upside. But those aren't guys I'm going to draft to be my starting quarterback anyway.
No, I'm in the same boat as you. If I'm going to be drafting him, I'm drafting him as a second quarterback off the board. I'd be drafting him if you take a quarterback early in 2 QB leagues, I'd probably draft him. And that's if we're going into 2 QB leagues, different scenario. But if I'm in a 12-team standard, even PPR league where it's 1 quarterback, the only way I'm getting him on my team is for his upside. If you grab somebody that's steady Eddie, who's got a lower ceiling, such as like Matt Stafford, such as Derek Carr, such as maybe Russell Wilson, where this guy could creep up and be somebody who finishes the end of the season, maybe just outside the top 10, but the second half of the season, he's rolling on all cylinders. And I mean, if you saw the news that came out about him, 2 things. One, Aaron Rodgers says he has, in the joint practices, says he has a great head on his shoulders. And secondly, one of the other, I don't remember if it was a coach or executive, was talking about how he's been like the most pro-ready quarterback that he's seen coming into the NFL in recent years, like ready to go.
Even Thielen compared him to a 15-year veteran. This is a kid that I think is going to play above. Like, and I think he has the weapons to be productive. And I hope I eat my words on it, but I'm not worried about his height. I'm not worried about his size. I'm not worried about him. I'm not super confident in this offense that it's going to be like, what would you say is his ceiling yardage wise?
Well, I expect this team to be playing from behind a little bit. I mean, their defense is decent. It's not a terrible defense, but I still think they're going to be playing from behind as they were last year. So to me, if looking at it, I could see him throwing for 3,700, 3,800 yards.
Yeah, that's
I
where
think
I'm at.
his ceiling is 4,000 though. That's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say his ceiling is 4,000. That they don't lean into Miles Sanders, but I'm gonna say realistically probably 37, 3,800.
Yeah, I
About
mean
23 touchdowns, 25 touchdowns.
that's where I'd have him. So I mean, there's 12 guys that you can get that are going to overproduce that, and I don't.
But that's
see him
also
being,
that's a good rookie season though too.
oh, for
That's a
sure. Like
solid rookie
I
season.
yeah, I think he's going to be a good player in the league. Like all the comps to Drew Brees and how he's smart, he's accurate with the football, he throws downfield. His timing, his work ethic, his time that he spends in the classroom. Those are all really good things and really good qualities, and it's going to make him a good pro. But good pros don't necessarily make good fantasy quarterbacks. I mean, bad pros sometimes do make good fantasy quarterbacks. Look at Justin Fields last year, right? Potentially Anthony Richardson this year, where they're going to be, they might not win a lot of games. They might not be the most productive in terms of their passing, but they might put up great fantasy numbers because they might score and they might run and they might, be able to be playmakers and throw big plays. I think that Bryce Young's game is going to be it's going to be efficiency, and efficient quarterbacks are good. I think he's going to be maybe a 15 to 20 point a week guy for fantasy, and that's not someone I want to draft.
No, I mean, to end on Bryce Young notes here, I'll probably be happy to grab him, obviously, in a rookie redraft, or a dynasty league. I try and snatch him, and I definitely would try and take a chance on him in a. I like him out of the quarterbacks in this draft. You like CJ Stroud, but I like him, and I would take him in a keeper situation late because if I could keep him, whatever your rules may be for keepers, you got yourself a solid future quarterback. Because the sky's the limit for this young kid who obviously commanded a great program in Alabama. So moving on to the
really star receiver there. Add a star receiver in a year or two there, and he's going to be be really good.
And they will. I mean, we'll talk about a couple of receivers they have here that have some pedigree and also some guys that I think we're treating like they're old veterans when they're not. But let's talk about Miles Sanders and a guy who last year finally got himself back into the end zone after a season with 0 touchdowns on the ground, but saw his career high in a season in rushes. He finished with 1,269 yards and 11 touchdowns. Compared to 0 in 2021. He was the RB10 finisher. Now, again, he ran on the best offensive line in football last year. He's going 49th overall, RB21. Is this a guy that you're targeting in zero RB drafts, or is this a guy you're going to be targeting as possibly your RB2? Where do you see him?
I mean, I think you can do either. I think that, if you go, we've talked about when my hero running back draft strategy is never really, you draft one and then you're probably waiting 2 or 3 rounds before you draft another running back. I think he's perfect for this scenario is if you're going to go and stack up at 2 wide receivers or 2 wide receivers and a tight end, he's going to be available in the 4th and 5th round in most leagues. And this is a good spot for him. Like, I think we talked about it, when he first went over there he saw career highs in rushing totals last year, especially touches. I think he can replicate that. I think that they're going to want to rely on the run game, and the Panthers' run game was good last year. We talked about it. They were the 10th best rush team in the league on a per game basis, and they were effective. I think Miles Sanders comes in and he's a good running back, and I think with an efficient quarterback behind him, you can expect good numbers from him. Does he post an RB10 finish? Maybe not. I don't necessarily think so, but as a high-end RB2, yeah, great. I think he's also good for a zero running back strategy. He's a good target. The volume is going to be there. I mean, Deonta Foreman's not there. There's Chuba Hubbard, and there's not really a ton of people outside of that. And so, yeah, I mean, if you're getting a guy based on volume play, this is a guy that can get 20 touches a game. So why wouldn't you want a guy like that, especially in a zero running back strategy where that's what you want is a guy that's going to be volume based, but might not have high end production. And, it's the James
Yeah, I
Conner,
mean,
the Cam Akers, Miles Sanders fits right into that. So yeah, if I can get him
but
in the 5th
does
round,
he? I mean, here's the thing. He does in theory, but don't forget, last year was the first time in his career where he pretty much almost doubled his carries in a season. Not that he was ever asked to in the past, and didn't really have to in the past, because we know how Philly's used up there, and we'll talk about them next week. But to me, Miles Sanders is in a winning scenario for him here. I like him. I'm taking a chance on him. I think people are a little bit really high on him based on his production last year, and you got to say this is the 16th ranked offensive line in the NFL. We're not talking about the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line, and before Philly was number one, he had a decent rookie campaign, but then struggled afterwards there, and then always battled injuries, etc. To me, if Deontay Foreman was still there, because that guy showed up last year when he came in after McCaffrey left, I'd be a little more nervous about taking him. But the fact that Chuba Hubbard's the only guy really there competing with him doesn't scare me. Like, Chuba Hubbard did nothing to wow me in any time he's been out there to touch the ball. He's had a couple, highlight reels here and there, but besides that, if that's his competition, he's in line for a home run in terms of, I think you could see him getting 1,100, 1,200 yards again, rushing just on pure volume again. And he may get more carries this season than he did last year. So,
and I think the touchdowns could be there too. I mean, who's going to steal touchdowns from him? It's not going to be Bryce Young on the goal line. And it's not a mobile quarterback, a big mobile quarterback that's going to take.
They got to get to the goal line. That's the thing. They're going to have to get to the goal line.
Well,
the difference is the Eagles had more opportunities. So,
for sure.
So again, Miles Sanders, we're recommending him both in a situation if you go 0 RB or hero RB as your second RB off the board a couple rounds later in round 4 or 5. I'm not taking him any earlier than the 4th. And the 4th is if people are snatching running backs left and right off in your draft. So if he's sitting you there in the 3rd because people are just eating up running backs, there means there's somebody of better value for you to pick out there. So keep an eye out for that.
Well, let's
go to the receivers.
Let me ask you, how do you rank? So if we're taking those 3, like kind of our 0 running back candidates, if you have James Conner, Cam Akers, Miles Sanders, how do you rank them?
To me, where Miles Sanders is going at RB21, he's just on the fringe of being inside of that 0 RB scenario because he's 49th overall. He's just inside that 4th round. To me, I'd be going 5th round for hero RB. So that's the only difference. Like, he's just at the start of that 5th round. In my opinion, I'm ranking probably James Conner, Miles Sanders, Cam Akers in that scenario. Because I think James Conner's going farther than he should. I think James Conner may, closer to the season, you see his ADP creep up over these next couple of drafts, because I think people are going to be drafting him a little bit higher, and he may be closer to Miles Sanders than where he's currently going.
Well, every running back that they bring in there is getting injured. So, yeah.
R.I.P. Marlon Mack. Not really. R.I.P. is Achilles. His Achilles.
Great career.
In his career.
Great career.
All right. Moving on to receivers. Let's keep this train moving. We got Adam Thielen, DJ Chark, and the rookie Jonathan Mingo. And let's not forget the 2nd round pick a couple years back, Terrace Marshall. So talking about Adam Thielen here, DJ Chark, Marshall, and Mingo, before I go into their stats, who's the one wide receiver to you that if they're sitting there for you at either at their ADP or value, you're wanting to grab? Because obviously they don't jump off the pages. I got to have a guy on this offense on my team.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably I'll narrow it down to 2. It's probably going to be Mingo and Chark for me. And I think their value is really good. I really like Chark. I've really liked Chark since he came into the league. I think he was really good in Jacksonville. He was underutilized that 2nd year and dealt with some injuries. I think he was really undervalued last year in Detroit. I think he's coming into a really good scenario this year where there's not a whole lot of competition in front of him. I mean, I don't know how much Thielen's going to drop, and I think he is going to be in line for just the volume guy there. I mean, like, look how many 100 target seasons that he's had. And again, that was in Minnesota, but with Bryce Young, who's going to be more of an efficient quarterback as we think he's going to be, then you're looking for guys that can get open, that are more short yardage and are really good in the short yardage, not so much those deep route guys. So Thielen could be a really good option if he starts slipping. But I like Chark and I like Mingo. I think Mingo is a really undervalued receiver that got drafted this year, a big body guy that can make plays. But this wide receiver room is, they got 4 guys there, and I think Terrence Marshall has been surprising some people in camp, which we've always expected that kind of Terrence Marshall breakout. And every year the quarterback play just kind of really kicks us in the nuts and is like, yeah, it's not going to happen for any receiver here. DJ Moore, who, how I feel about him, look at his numbers the last couple of years where he hasn't been really productive to his talent level because the quarterback play has been really subpar there. Those are the 2 guys I really am looking to target more from this team. I don't necessarily know if I want to target Thielen, and I don't necessarily want to target Terrence Marshall. And I think Terrence Marshall you can pretty much get for free. I think Mingo, just because of the rookie status, people are going to take chances on him, especially in the dynasty leagues and in keeper leagues. But in a strictly redraft league, probably people aren't going to take a chance on Mingo or Marshall, and I think they're going to go more for Chark or Thielen.
Yeah, and so Adam Thielen last year finished as a wide receiver 36, 716 yards and 6 touchdowns. Again, he was on Minnesota. He's going as a wide receiver 54, 127th overall now in drafts. He's 32 years old. I didn't get a chance to look at where his birthday was to see if he's turning 33 during or before the season, but his yards per target, his catch percentage dropped all last year. So all that stuff is huge implications. Now, again, he was playing for Minnesota, where a young KJ Osborne was getting a little bit better. You had obviously JJ being the king of wide receivers. So to me, I think the biggest thing for Thielen is the veteran presence and the trustworthiness with Bryce Young. That may help you out if you take the chance on that. But the other thing too is DJ Chark is that guy I was alluding to that was being treated like an old man veteran in the NFL when he's a lot younger than everybody thinks he is. He was wide receiver 60. Yeah, he was wide receiver 65 last year. And let's not forget he was injured for part of the year too as well. But he still had 30 receptions for 502 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had a 16.7 yards per catch. He had I think he was wide receiver 6 in week 14 as well. So like he has the ability to put up the numbers. And the thing I like about him more than anything is he had 3 games of 94 plus yards or more last year. He's the guy who's going to have the big playability. So if I'm going to go for a receiver in Carolina, I'm going for big playability. Like I'm not going to go for Thielen, who's going to probably dink and dunk himself into a volume play. And yeah, he's had a great red zone presence over his career, but the athleticism of DJ Chark, and he's shown he can do it before. I'm trusting that. Terrace Marshall is a freak. Don't forget, he was a 2nd-round pick out of LSU. So he was held in high regard by Carolina. The problem was when he was drafted, he came into Cam Newton, who had noodle arm. And then he came into Baker Mayfield and who else? Why am I drawing a blank? Sam Darnold. So like he didn't have great, like you said, great quarterback play. But that being said, he still had 47 catches for 490 and a touchdown last year. He had 10.4 yards per target. So let's just not forget that at the last 2 seasons at LSU, if he brings any of that to this coming season, he had 23 touchdowns in his final 2 seasons at LSU. So we know this guy's a big playmaker. And then you bring in Jonathan Mingo, another 2nd-round pick too as well. I think Bryce Young leads on the veterans, and you'll see him sprinkle in Terrace Marshall, and you'll see him sprinkle in Jonathan Mingo here and there. Chark is a guy I'm leaning on. And that brings us to the last pass catcher, Hayden Hurst, who's going tight end 24.
You know what's crazy about this wide receiver room is that they're all 6'2", 200 plus.
Yeah, they're legit big athletes.
Yeah.
They're big
like
athletes.
Mingo, Marshall, and Chark, 6'2", 6'3", 200 plus pounds.
Here's the only thing I'll say about Mingo. I know people were high on him. I think Carolina took him higher in the draft. They liked him a lot and his talent. And I think he's going to be a great future receiver, but he didn't have the output in college that some of these other guys like DJ Chark, like Terrace Marshall Jr. did, like other receivers that have come through Carolina. I think that they pulled the trigger early on him because they didn't want to miss on him. Which sure. If you're going to be in the draft, you do it. In that second round, there were still like Hyatt and Tillman and other great receivers out there. I think they didn't want to lose on this guy, but that doesn't mean he's going to be your Justin Jefferson or your Jamar Chase first year out of college and coming out and blowing up the league. I think people are getting a little too trigger happy, hoping that they get the next Chase, the next Justin Jefferson coming out of in their rookie season. So I don't think you're going to see that here with Mingo. I think you trust Chark. I agree with you on that one. And I think Thielen, again, if he drops based on his ADP at wide receiver 54, if he's down in the 60s, I'm all over him too at that point because it's a value pick at that. He's going to get his volume. I could see him easily getting 700 to 800 yards again and 5 to 7 touchdowns, which is a good flex play for you on a week-to-week basis.
Right.
Last pass catcher we don't have to take time on is Hayden Hurst, the journeyman tight end who has always found success wherever he has, but also can't stay healthy or gets sniped by someone like Mark Andrews coming in. That being said, he's tight end 24. He's part of that group that you can take a dart throw at or carousel or streamer here, but he's not at the top of that list. So unless you're in a league where you have tight end flex, where they're eating up left and right, and you decided to punt the tight end position, and you're with him here, I mean,
go get one of the. Go get one of the two on the next team that we talk about.
Let's just say in Cincinnati, he did half of his catches were first down catches, so he was highly regarded on third downs in Cincinnati by Joe Burrow, and he was used a lot in Baltimore before Andrews blew up, and he was used in Atlanta heavily. Not till Andrews blew up. He blew up in Baltimore with the Falcons before Pitts came. He had a great season the year before Pitts came in, and then he was took a back seat to him there. So to me, I will just say this is not a guy you're going to want to be thinking about. This is your main tight end gets injured and there's nobody left. You got to stream somebody situation here. So that's the Carolina Panthers. Let us know what you think on your thoughts on the receiving core there on Miles Sanders, where you take